usual, so taking advantage of that opportunity and targeting new private development there. And then finally, goals for the Park of Commerce. And I think it's important to note that the Park of Commerce is one of the longer term things, and there are short-term steps that we talked about today to get it set up for that long-term. But in many ways, focusing on the downtown and on Dixie Highway in the short term, maybe where you're going to see some of the more immediate results. So the goals we discussed there are building capacity and relationships. So that means building relationships with the county, which may have some capacity to help with grant funds and to help do the things that need to be done. Building relationships with the property owners within the Park of Commerce, and those sorts of things. Providing the infrastructure needed to attract new private investment. So one of the things we talked about yesterday was what is the public sector's role in economic development, and we would argue that one of the major roles is making the conditions correct so that things can happen. And so roads, sewer, utility, all of those things. And then jobs for residents, jobs to attract new residents to the city and new activity into the city. And part of that is providing job training for residents so that those are getting that. And then getting the word out. So creating a brand for the Park of Commerce, so have a distinctive identity, and so that when William and Dolores go around, they can say, this is the Park of Commerce, this is what we're selling, come invest here, whether you're a public sector partner or a private sector. All right, so then just to wrap up with next steps, as I said, we're going to go away and write a memo. It will include a more comprehensive list than we've given here of the city's assets and accomplishments, as well as the goals for each area, and then the short, medium, and long-term strategies. And as well as partnerships that the city can be investing in within the community, whether that's churches, immigrant community, the Finnish community, all those players who are so important here, as well as with agencies at the county level, at the regional level, at the state and federal levels, who are important players in implementing these ideas. And then from what we heard from staff, this is going to help inform the economic development element in particular of the comp plan. And they're going to be conducting community outreach that hopefully what we've done here together will be helpful for that process. So I'm going to open it up for questions and discussion here. Yes?
My name is Mary Lindsay. I'm not only president of my neighborhood association, College Park, but I sit as chair of the NAPC. When you talk about community outreach, Neighborhood Association President's Council. We're a council of all the presidents of all the neighborhood associations in Lake Worth. One of the most major achievements the city of Lake Worth has enjoyed in the last few years is for the first time really a true partnership with the NAPC. We are the voice of the neighborhoods and what we provide at the NAPC meeting. And by speaking to all of the neighborhood association presidents, understand these are the leaders in our community. Not only have they established their credibility, when they say something, it means something. People tend to believe what neighborhood association presidents say, because nobody wants to be a neighborhood association president unless you're, prepared to take on an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
And we all have very extensive email distribution lists, which we use. There's cross-referencing between the neighborhood associations, several neighborhood associations, some that are more well-established, have partnered with those that are less well-established. And our goal at the NAPC is to bring all the neighborhood associations up to a level where that kind of communication is just something that we can all count on. One of the things that the NAPC has done most recently is to communicate with the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority and engage them in a trial run of a shuttle bus that picks up at Tri-Rail, goes west as far as Congress, which takes in, of course, Palm Beach State College, where many of our local students begin their higher education, and goes all the way across to the beach. Along that loop, which you all now understand is the central corridor of Lake Worth, is almost every single institution of importance in the city, as well as the new Sabor grocery store, the new Publix grocery store. So the amenities and resources that are along that route are certainly there, and people need access to it. In addition, the ridership potential along that route is simply huge. There's the Lake Worth Towers, which is, it's not hard to find, it's the tallest building in the city of Lake Worth. And that is strictly very low-income senior rentals in that building, none of whom have transportation. You take a look at their parking lot and it's primarily staff that's there. We used to have a shuttle in the city of Lake Worth, and they used that to live. They used that to get to the grocery store, to get to their doctor's appointments, to get to the senior center. It was vital to their lives. That's been discontinued. So what we've asked the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority to do is a trial run. You know, try it for just a couple of months. The NAPC, for our part, we will take on the task of promoting this, advertising this, the economic, ecological, all the benefits of this thing. So we're hoping that that helps. That certainly draws people to the center of town, increases mobility, and adds to the quality of life of everybody. That's just an example. What I did not want you to forget in your memo is that important asset that the city of Lake Worth has, and that is a very engaged population that's organized into neighborhood associations committed to sharing these kinds of information and projects. William's department has been fabulous in working with us in developing an incredible interactive map showing if you live here, oh, that's your neighborhood association. Click here, when do they meet, who's the president, how do you contact them? We worked for years to get the city commission to allow the neighborhood associations in rotation to give a short 10-minute presentation to the commission and to the public at large, what they're doing, what they need, what their successes are. This has been a big thing in bringing neighborhoods together. So I just don't want you to forget about the people and the neighbors of Lake Worth, because we are really what makes it happen.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to take you back a long time, because I was there before Mary was. I lived through model cities in Portland, Maine. And model cities was a big bunch of money came into the city. And we set up neighborhoods. And we set up what we called Portland West Neighborhood Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
And we actually made recommendations to the city commission on every penny through different task forces that were spent in Portland, Maine. We bought fire engines, we started head start programs, we did psychological nurseries for preschoolers, everything. That's what I wanted the neighborhood associations in Lake Worth to become, where you'd organize them, you'd have them organized, and then people that needed something in their own little district over here could go and say, we really need this sidewalk fixed where the kids are going to school. And the neighborhood association could be a spokesman for the commission. It hasn't gotten that far yet, and I don't know if it ever will get that far, but it worked very well in Portland, Maine with a ton of federal money with respect, a ton.
Or, for example, this neighborhood here just to the north, and you're actually in it now, it's called Tropical Ridge. It goes from Lucerne Avenue, 10th Avenue North, from Dixie Highway to I-95. It's a huge neighborhood. It's over 96 square blocks. The NAPC, Neighborhood Association President's Council, is sponsoring a neighborhood community walk tomorrow. We do this in different neighborhoods every month, where it isn't just the people from this neighborhood who will walk together throughout the streets and hand out information about Tropical Ridge, but rather people from every neighborhood all over the city. We are committed. We are no longer going to tolerate being known as a city with an east side and a west side. We're a community of neighbors. So, like Loretta says, that's exactly how the NAPC operates.
I missed the first part of your presentation here this afternoon, but I would encourage you to not forget about our historic resources that we have in the downtown, and that we do have a National Historic District. And we have 3 National Historic Districts within the city and 3 sites within the city that are on National Register individually. And one thing that has always been on our to-do list or our wish list would be to have some kind of recreational brown signage on I-95 saying this exit to the Lake Worth Historic District, and sort of a wayfinding from I-95 and a better linkage, because part of the reason our downtown is preserved the way it is that we don't have a direct access to 95 from Lake Worth Road, and you have to go 10 and 6, but it's a little bit of a maze to find our downtown that way, which is probably why it is the way it is right now. But still, to have that signage would be important. It would also be important to be led to some kind of tool that we could use to redevelop or reuse or adaptively reuse our Gulf Street Motel, which is right at the base of Bryant Park, which could be part of that linkage between the beach and the downtown, and also be a home to pump in new dollars from out of town into our downtown economy.
And jobs.
And jobs, 200 jobs. Now, they're not engineering jobs,
Right.
but there's an awful lot of people in the city that couldn't do engineering jobs.
And
That are
there's
looking for good jobs.
There are some structural things, not with the building, but economic structural things, financial reasons why that building is not open now, and it hasn't been since 2005. And it kind of has a checkered economic past, even going back from right after it was built. So it's an unused asset.
Yeah.
It was in foreclosure in the 30s.
So
That
really,
far
this
back,
is the
wow.
second time? But it's not quite.
Probably the 4th time. 3rd or 4th.
I want to ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Portland, Maine was the largest city in the state of Maine. It wasn't the capital. But we had an awful lot of people from state departments come to Portland, Maine and help us. They really assisted us in doing transportation and doing infrastructure and doing a lot of things that we actually brought state money in as well as model cities money in. And we never get any state people here. They never come to Lake Worth. And I don't know why they don't come to Lake Worth, because we are, without a doubt, the most depressed oceanfront, intracoastal front, South Florida, probably the whole coast. We probably are the most economically depressed on the whole coast. And I would think that they would get a little wondering what's going on in Lake Worth. Why don't we be down there and try to help them?
Can I ask you a question, Loretta? Have you guys worked with your Congress people?
Yeah, we do.
That would seem to be a great way to get some leverage of the state and your local state, your state and state senate and legislature people.
I think our elected officials do as well for us as they possibly can do. I mean, I'll go back to Mark Foley. He brought things to Lake Worth. But I'm talking about the actual